one's the best crypto asset? Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Which one's the best crypto asset? Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Which one's the best? 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 What's the second best?
Welcome in to Discover Crypto in the BitLab Basement Consortium. Got my man Kelly up on the side bar here today. We got a lot of charts to go over, but Kelly, today we've got to go over the post-crash autopsy report. It is in. The results are quite terrifying on what we just barely avoided in that massive pullback. Good to have you on the show, Kelly. Are you excited about Taylor Swift's new album? Tell me how excited you are.
I'm overwhelmingly excited because she's the best artist of our time. And my girlfriend is over. I mean, she is fanatical about Taylor Swift. But I'm sitting here having some mushroom gummies. Trying to get my brain firing on all cylinders. Don't worry, it's not that kind of mushroom.
Yeah.
Help neurons. But hey, man, we saw a lot of shaking about of sentiment, but also we got some really critical charts we want to look at. Not right now, but here in a little bit. So stay tuned. Showing some really interesting whale signal that could be overwhelmingly detrimental, but we're going to break down exactly what they mean and some levels we got to watch because it might be a fake out.
Absolutely. And other things, the Bitcoin leverage traders, our bodies are floating down the Ganges, right? And another massive washout happened this morning. Of course, it was connected to a Trump tweet. It was fantastic. Times are good. And also a currency war address from the Secretary of Treasury, Scott Bessent, along with all the signals of where the hell our altcoins are at right now, guys. We are on the edge. We're going to talk about it here. So make sure to give us a follow. Obviously, you got me here at Druth Crypto, but also Kelly Kellum. I got to find you and have you kind of loaded up here. Kelly Kellum's always doing stuff. You're all over the internet. You're always on spaces. You're always doing things. Make sure to follow Kelly Kellum there. But let's get into the juice of the market here, folks. The sea is kind of red. Okay. We kind of had a little bit of red seas showing their ugly face right now. We have Bitcoin. It fell down basically to about $110,000 flat right before we went live. As things sit right now, we are not even close to out of the woodwork on Bitcoin. It's trying to hold up some strength in this range. Pretty excited to hear from Kelly on all the charts side because people are on edge right now, Kelly. Right?
My charts are even confused. Go to my chart real quick. Look at this. Yeah. This is very bizarre. It says Ethereum 3,976. And look at the price line on the chart. It says 4,256. What is going on there? Let's refresh the page. Are we just in an alternate universe?
That's a way off API right there.
Yeah, that's that. I was just looking at that. I'm like, that cannot be so. So let's see what that's looking like. Yeah, that definitely dropped back down. I don't know why that wasn't showing there. Yeah. So 30, under 4,000 again. Are we at the breaking point? We're going to be diving into that. Go back to your chart. We'll dive into those charts in a bit.
Oh yes. We got a lot of stuff to cover and a lot of announcements, honestly, that, didn't help the charts. Right. So, that crash that it in the general scheme of things looks like a blip on the map here, but this is the tweet that caused it. I believe China purposely not buying our soybeans and causing difficulty for our soybean farmers is an economically hostile act. We are considering terminating business with China having to do with cooking oil and other elements of trade. This is the gift that keeps on giving. The KOL from hell, Donald Trump, has struck again. Talking about cooking oil this morning.
Well, wait a minute, Drew. Are we now? Is this an alternate timeline? Because are we now entering a phase where we may enter some sort of larger conflict with China because of soy boys?
Oh my God, Soytober. They could call this rebel. Very, very nice. Potentially, Kelly. Yeah. Potentially, man. This is kind of a big breakdown in trade relations on a macroeconomic level We do have some words from the Secretary of Treasury on this as well. Not a great look, though. And you know what, Kelly? This is something that I felt was coming to the U.S. in this relationship with China for a long time. Now that it's happening, I really feel that Trump's kind of ripping the Band-Aid off. Yes, there will be pain, but you know what? Our farmers here in America, the production here in America needs someone standing up for them. There's a great comment here. Enjoy the suffering. Fantastic name, by the way. Lots of value leaving Binance, 27 billion over the last 7 days and 2.7 billion just in the last 24 hours. There's a massive flight from Binance, Kelly. And while we're on the subject, I do have some updates here. We're kind of hopping and skipping, but you guys are bringing up some good things. So let's talk about the Binance flight. Centralized exchanges seeing record-breaking asset outflows today. This is, of course, posted yesterday, so it's kind of the post-chaos message, and they're trying to do some cleanup. Binance is offering $400 million, what they call the Together Initiative, to restore confidence, offering $4,000 to $6,000 in USDC payouts to users and a $100 million loan for institutions. Kind of an interesting play.
So wait, is Binance, would you say that Binance has now entered the territory of crypto similar to the role of the IMF in the world economy?
It's a crypto bailout. They're doing a crypto bailout, right? They're doing a leverage trader bailout. There is no other way to look at it. Systemically important, maybe a little bit too much for Binance, right? Maybe they're a little bit too systemically important. We're going to take a look at the autopsy report and just find out why. Let's keep blasting through and get to that portion here. But you guys are bringing up some important stuff. Now, this is also going on this morning. This was crazy, Kelly. Okay. The U.S. government, it now owns 2% of the available Bitcoin supply. Coinbase Bitcoin under management, 2.95 million Bitcoin, now approximately 18.9%, including ETF custody, exchange clients, and other custody being the Coinbase Prime. Under the U.S. regulatory framework, which includes all public companies and their own wallets, approximately 30%, Strategy coming in at 4%, Binance at 3.8%, and I think, isn't this Bitfinex? Isn't that supposed to be Bitfinex or Infinex? Kelly, do you know the answer to that?
It's probably, I would guess Bitfinex.
Yeah.
I've never heard of Infinex, but
yeah, I
the
think
world's a
Marty
large
probably
place, you know. But you know what this also highlights, and we'll come back to this in a second. Coming over here to looking at this, you know, it's not just sovereign bodies, but this is pretty massive. Now, given we don't have tens of thousands of corporations that are stacking, institutions that are stacking, but a 40% increase, that 40% more public companies holding Bitcoin today than only 90 days ago. So the inflection point in terms of this large swing is nothing that we should be balking at. In fact, it kind of screams to the noise that we're seeing in the price action on the chart right now that you did a great video yesterday. It was actually on this stream before I came on, and I think you edited it down with Piano Matty B, showing the markets, the market makers and the exchanges are doing everything they can to remain as profitable as they can. And in order to do that, when you put free liquidity in the market, aka leverage, they're going to shake and shimmy about until they have every bit of that leverage rinsed out. So I think it's all kind of clearing up the market as more and more big players get involved.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And you know, the crazy part about, you know, we talked about the leverage yesterday with Piano Matty B. Another thing that's wild to me about seeing this amount of crypto that is held by the US government is getting compounded because they're actually chasing down even more crypto right here. This is absolutely wild. So the US government sanctioned another 16,000 Bitcoin related to Chen Zi, the person that they seized the 127,000 Bitcoin from earlier. This was reported on this channel yesterday. I made a big deal about it before really most of the YouTube, Twitter, content creators, news anchors, they didn't make a big deal about this until today. And it looks like the government has their eyes on another 16,000 Bitcoin to add to the strategic reserve, which I'm sure Scott Bessent is smiling from ear to ear about. They have no problem confiscating Bitcoin, right? And this, the confiscation potential of Bitcoin is something that I need to take seriously. And seeing there's other applications to Bitcoin. This is a Ukrainian woman caught in a Romanian border trying to smuggle $1 million hidden inside of her Mercedes engine block. The money was seized by the Ukrainian border service at a checkpoint. Not many crevasses other than
is that a million US dollars?
Yes, $1 million US.
That's where all of our help with Ukraine went.
Well, and they're moving things around. Right? Who can blame them? Right? Who can blame them, Billy? But this, Bitcoin, it's well, I'm going to be doing a video that's going to go out later on the Discover Crypto channel, but it really does paint the picture how much the government will do to its citizens to take Bitcoin out of their hands. Yes, they're seeking out different criminals that they've already got on the books that the Department of Justice has already tagged. But in my opinion, Bitcoin is the ultimate hedge against tyranny, because you know what? Instead of trying to escape out of Ukraine or through Romania with a brick of cash, maybe a little bit of Bitcoin and a seed phrase just memorized might have done the job a lot easier, right? So that is what I'm thinking. And let's see, John Forrest, 3 days left, kiddos. 3 days till what? What is 3 days from now? Is it Saturday? So he's saying Saturday, something huge is going to happen.
Well, there's a government shutdown that's going on right now. And the major speculation potentially is that that it's being held closed by one of the parties because there's a big something about kings and none of them and a protest. So they're trying to just bring that to bear.
So we're going to be shining shoes in 3 days. You know what? Why don't you take a bet? How about this? What's your name? John Forrest. Find me on Twitter and let's make a bet about that I'm going to be shining shoes. Put your money where your mouth is, buddy. At Truth Crypto, come on and get your boy. Now, James Wynn got liquidated again, Kelly. $40 million absolute savage trade. So he was on Hyperliquid once again yesterday, deposited $200,000 in USDC, claimed $2,000 in rewards, then opened long positions at a 40x on Bitcoin, 10x on Pepe, Hyperliquid, totaling $4.8 million. And he is indeed liquidated once again. Kelly, from a trader's perspective, things are a little bit crazy right now. Okay. Blood is everywhere. Traders' blood is everywhere. What equilibrium are you looking Bitcoin to regain to actually kind of reclaim just a generalized bullish feeling? Like, I feel like we haven't lost 92. We haven't lost 90. Generally, things feel like they're in a bullish attitude in anyways for me. But, are there certain break points in Bitcoin's price where you start looking for, a slide downhill and, basically a reset of the market, Kelly? Just on this note, because I wanted to talk about this. There's a lot of traders out there getting wrecked, man. So what do you think would be like kind of a reasonable spot to see bullishness reclaimed?
Well, I mean, first off, getting above this golden pocket, right? And actually we could adjust this because this has gone up a bit further. Now that would be, reclaiming the $120,000 range would be a start, because one, we'd be, tackling getting through this 382 with conviction. Two, would be getting through a very regular rejection point on bounces that could potentially be a dead cat bounce before lower. So getting through this zone and having some sort of drawdown, whether it's there or actually slicing all the way through the 786 and finding support, but getting above this and having bulls defend the next retrace, that's where I get a lot of conviction, because, and we got to go back. Sometimes you got to go back in time, everybody, because you see this right here, this drawdown where this marked this sort of local top, the price came right, look at that, right into the golden pocket. Oh, it's going up, only to reject and completely fall down. Similarly, right. It's not the only time. You go back on the charts. Let's go a little bit older. Let's go back to 2017, which is about right here. Same thing. It's almost like these fibs are their own self-fulfilling prophecy. Look at that. Bounce up right into the golden pocket. Another attempt right just above the golden pocket, fall. So we really want to see the next time the price does, if in the near future, which I think it will, test that 118 to 120 band, breaking through it and finding support above it, that's critical. I think, unfortunately, the majority of retail is going to get trapped in the emotions of, I got to capture this on leverage before this goes to the moon. And then they just get rinsed. If it does, if a lot of open interest comes in, it's just going to rinse them again.
Right. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing if we can reclaim those levels. I'm excited about breakout prop and L Bank, but for the time being, things are a little bit crazy, right? Things are a little bit crazy out there. Crypto Crank giving you a shout out. You nailed it, Kelly. You're taking $1 million short at 120K for that retracement. Okay.
But is it $1 million or is it $1 million hair?
That's probably doll hairs. Probably doll hairs, right? Now, we do got to talk about this crypto's biggest threat. So we have an autopsy report that came out. Cointelegraph came out with some pretty concise information about the crash, and it actually re-solidifies what TJ said yesterday about a attack on Athena. It looks like that is indeed the case. Now, okay, here's the rundown. So on October 10th, markets suffered essentially the biggest liquidation ever. It was $19 billion conservatively that was wiped out in nearly the blink of an eye. $65 billion in open interest lost. This absolutely dwarfed crashes of the past like FTX and these other major events in crypto. Exclusive order book data from Reyna Labs came out. It revealed that there was actually a liquidity meltdown that happened in the span of minutes. It was a meltdown of Binance's USDE to USDT pair in specific. This is where buy side orders, they vanished 74% in minutes, dropping the depth down to $2 million, causing USDE to depeg from its dollar peg down to 68 cents. And while it depegged down to 68 cents, there is a 900x increase in trading, mostly sells, that were all causing this $346 million worth of liquidations, way outpacing the other, kind of similar hits we saw on WB ETH and BN Sol and all these other wrap pairs. The internal order book, the oracles for Binance's internal order book, mispriced collateral for these peg tokens and basically exposed a series of unified accounts, cascading risks, and a system that is intertwined and honestly, I feel like highly fragile. Like seeing this information come out and how really it was just the little bit of pressure in one specific spot on the order books. Kelly, do you think Binance does more good or bad for crypto at this point? What do you think about it? I want to ask you the pointed question.
I think that Binance is in a unique position that they probably have a huge amount of external pressures that probably have to do with a little bit of geopolitics as well, in addition to major banking interests in terms of really making sure that they seize and maintain control of sort of the capital flow in the crypto market. Yeah. So do they do more bad than good? I mean, I think it's an irrelevant answer either way, because we're not going to change what's happening there. It's like the market's going to market. The market's going to, regardless of where we're at in the cycle. It's not like we didn't have liquidation events in previous parts of the cycle. We had a huge amount of leverage in the markets, prior to this, in different market cycle, high price points relative to the cycle, portions of the cycle of the market. But I don't know. It feels very constructed. It feels very orchestrated. I'd rather see, and I don't mean this, it's not like I'd rather see people get liquidated, but if people get liquidated, I'd rather see it happening because it was very organic, natural market behavior, not major pushes to really swing the market in a way to flush people or create any sort of cascade in the market, which I feel like is more of what happened, especially when you're not considering just Bitcoin and Atom and, Ethereum, but you look at this, like with Athena, there is, it seemed like very coordinated across different crypto data tools, as well as different crypto native assets and stablecoins. So I feel like in that regard, it's incredibly destructive.
Yeah. I say prison, right? For the people behind the order books, I say prison. And I felt much better. Okay. Me and Isaac were always talking about this. I don't know exactly how far I can go with this since I'm on Discover Crypto, right? But I was much more comfortable in those 4 months. And obviously it's got a new CEO leading Binance, but where we are right now, we think that it's, we're going to run into this mass tokenization of everything while we're literally dealing with interest from the CCP and the ability for them to just put their little finger on the level scale and cause an absolute tens of billions of dollars of unwinding happening in the blink of an eye. Yeah, if I'm in charge, jail, straight to jail. Now, I think my parents are still mad at me for buying Bitcoin at $127,000. This is a Netflix account on some crypto users' side here. Dad's got his regular account, mom with her regular account, and Mr. Uptober, they renamed Mr. Uptober. This is going to be the maddening thing about October, isn't it? Where we're looking for.
Well, remember, everybody said September was going to be bearish, right?
Mm.
Everybody said September was going to be bearish. And if we go to the the charts here, you can see on the chart that if we go into the week charts, look at this, pretty bullish here. Oh my God, a little bit bearish, but then it ultimately ended still up. You can tell this on the white candle there. If we look at this on Heikinashi, you can see green candle. So we had a month that was supposed to be historically bearish into green. Now we have this month that's supposed to be historically bullish. It wouldn't shock me to see if this not only didn't drop, but also didn't pump. Everybody keeps forgetting the market doesn't have to go this way or that way. It very well could chop, $5, $8, $20,000 sideways for a few months into the end of this year, especially with all the geopolitical shenanigans that are going on right now that are, shaking the sentiment about every single time we get some wind behind our sails. They say, hey, let's go ahead and cut the sails down. It's like, okay, well, let's weave these things together with my toes again, right? Does anybody else feel like that? Are you guys frustrated with the back and forth of when the narrative is actually going to have some momentum to maintain and the world stops trying to jack with us, trying to make some money because we finally figured it out and they changed the damn playbook? What is going on?
Finally figured it out. All right, I gotta say this, okay? Isaac's been gone for a month, okay? And you savages are still you're like hyenas going after that young man and his wholesome family.
You are banned.
Jeez Louise, I had to do it, okay? And maybe Isaac is taking up the reins as Mr. Uptober in the household there. Maybe, but I know he's doing well. I've talked to him. He's doing good. Now, this was an incredible post. CryptoFace tagged Telegram. Telegram is the worst app to have your phone number connected to. No, I don't need a prostitute. No, I don't need a job or a loan. Instead of hi messages, they've now upped their sales aggression to this. Okay. I have to talk about this a little bit. There's many ways to lose money in crypto. Telegram and these thought bots, they come after you. They try to use your momentary male weakness to get you to respond to this type of message. Please, for the love of God, do not, I shouldn't even show the damn Telegram. Please protect yourself from scammers. These Telegram bots, they are aggressive. And a bot ain't what it used to be, right? They used to be very, very easily located. I basically just assume that every single female that hits me up in crypto is fake and nefarious, okay? And until proven otherwise. Not just because I have a wife, also because if you interact in those messages, your account very well could be emptied out, right? Very well could be emptied out. So just please stay Safu out there. And this is a horrible metric, Kelly. TJ told me this morning. Jensen Huang, CEO of NVIDIA, the number one GPU company, is cousins with Lisa Su, CEO of AMD, the number two GPU company. It's like one big club and we're not in it, right? George Carlin. should this be illegal, Kelly? The number one company, which is nearly $5 trillion in market cap, a huge chunk of the American Wall Street economy. And then the number two company in chips, AMD, in terms of GPUs. Like, should this be illegal? Because I feel like this is a monopoly at the top, constricted. I mean, is this just free market working itself out, and we're going to have cousins having the greatest Christmases for themselves and a consolidation of power that just never ends, Kel?
I'm sorry. Ask me that question again. Mario is messaging me.
Jensen and Lisa, they're cousins.
I know, right? That's just wild. But it also speaks back to it just speaks to, like, I don't want to say nepotism, because it's not that. They both did it in their own right. But some people in certain groups, in certain sectors, it's who you know, who you're surrounded by, what sort of opportunities that arise. And that's one of the reasons why I've always been a huge proponent of, you can make your luck. You can. Anybody can. Now, are they lucky just because they're both cousins and they have the similar opportunities? Well, yes, in some ways, but also everybody has the ability to go out there and network and start building a meaningful network of people within their current circle, expanding on that so they have different access points that they can build into. So I do think that's quite interesting. But if you want to go down a real rabbit hole, go back and look at, like, I think it's like King Louis the 13th or something like that, and then track every U.S. president, the royal blood. It's like, wait a minute, how are all these people linked all the way back to, like, some nonsense?
It's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy. Huge shout out to Crypto Crow. I see you here. Shout out to you. Thanks for joining us on the show. Make sure to give Crypto Crow and his channel a follow, and also Crypto Crank, cranking out some content here. So make sure to follow Crypto Crank, and Patton McCrotch getting followed by CC Top Signal.
Crypto Crank?
Okay.
Coins Chick.
Yeah, CC Coins Chick. Maybe a Top Signal.
Wait, right? Is Crypto Crank Coins Chick?
Oh, man. Don't say that. Hopefully not. All right. We got to go to this. Scott Percent came out with the spice today, and I'm going to have a listen. We're going to have a listen to what the Secretary of Treasury is talking about with this whole China debacle.
As the president said, we want to help China, not hurt it. If some in the Chinese government want to slow down the global economy through disappointing actions and through economic coercion, the Chinese economy will be hurt the most. And make no mistake, this is China versus the world. They have put these unacceptable export controls on the entire world. China is a command and control economy, and we and our allies will neither be commanded nor controlled. They are a state economy, and we are not going to let a group of bureaucrats in Beijing try to manage the global supply chains. As Ambassador Greer said, we had a document and an agreement in Geneva, and magnets were flowing quite well. Some U.S. auto companies have called us in the past week and said that there had been a slowdown in magnets. So when we asked the Chinese about this, they said, oh, it probably had something to do with the holiday. Had something to do with the holiday. So they can't be trusted with the global supply chain. Had something to do with the holiday.
Dude, I mean, he is not saying little stuff there. I want to clarify something about Scott Percent. So Scott Percent is, by all measures and means, a currency general on a global scale. This guy worked as a second-hand man for Jorge Oros and nearly brought the UK to its absolute knees. All he had to do was put a little bit of pressure on the real estate market in the UK, and he caused the fiat currency to go into a tailspin to the downside. Now, seeing his current posturing with China, and the current lever that he could pull in China, it is actually not escaping me to think about the process of the United States putting the finger on the real estate market, commercial and single family, within China, and causing a similar type of unwinding of their current fiat currency. And this guy had a great comment about this. The global economy doesn't need China, but China can't survive without the world. That's the checkmate that they never saw coming. And it's, in my opinion, getting compounded because you know what? People, yes, they're out there spending with credit cards. Economic activity can still be measured in terms of consumer involvement, but the amount of credit card debt being accrued through that process of the world's biggest customer, the United States, is causing things to slow down pretty drastically. Plus, you add in the battle of BRICS and Ukraine and Russia and all this crap going on. It doesn't escape me to think about this man, Scott Bessent, could be getting ready to absolutely crush China's economy through their real estate exposure. I'm saying it here. He's done it before, and we're going to take that to the bank and see if it plays out. Now, I want to get your opinion. Is this trade war / war of words that we're going through with China right now something that's seasonal, or is it going to continue to get worse? 1 in the chat if you think that this is going to blow over and be no big deal. 2 in the chat if you think that this is going to snowball into a much more serious situation over the next few months and year. Let me know what you actually think, because I really don't think a lot of people are thinking about if this does get worse, right? We've seen how bad it is so far with the tweet crash outs and all that stuff. Trillions of dollars can be wiped off the market in the blink of an eye just from a Trump crash out, a tweet. We have positioning and posturing at the Treasury level for the United States. Scott Bessent knows the exact levers that he has to push within the Chinese economy to cause a unwinding, a crumbling. And it's something to think about. It's something to think about. So I want to know from you in the chat, what do you think about that? I'm personally of the opinion it's a slow boil to actual World War III. I've made this very, very clear. A lot of people disagree with me, though. So let's hear it in the chat. You think I'm crazy? You think this is going to blow over? Or this is a slow boil to an actual hardcore conflict? Now, this is an interesting, I better give this guy a follow back. Aldo, Colossio Crypto. What are the odds Trump rolls out another stimulus package, but it pays in stable coins instead of cash? Seen some parody accounts coming out saying that Trump's going to come out with World Liberty Fi, stable coins, things of that nature in terms of a stimulus payment, thus, pushing even more people onto the crypto landscape. Instantly floods the market with crypto liquidity. Could that be the next pump play? I'm responding to this yes, Aldo. I think that this is a tough one, Kelly. This is a tough one. I'd say no. I think it's too early to see Trump roll out a stable coin payment in the form of stimulus. I'm saying no. Yeah. I'm actually holding off on it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, but let's be, we talked about the potential dooms, and we're going to get into some more charts on that. But let's look at Bitcoin, for instance. Let's look at Bitcoin on April. What date did that say? April 1st, 2001. Okay, let's look at the price action this is before the stimulus rolled out, 2001. So this would be way back here, April 1st. Which is, right about here, right in the middle of this crash. And this essentially preceded some stabilization, but then ultimately the sort of launch into this parabola that we see, boom, like this. And that speaks to that huge amount of liquidity that was printed, not only in the US, China, Japan, UK, the Eurozone, everywhere printed. And you see that get sort of flood into market appreciation. So there's a great video with Natalie Brunell and Mark Moss. They posted, I think earlier today or yesterday, where he's talking about the crash right now that everybody's talking about, this potential, oh my God, everything's going to epically crash. And I think they have it backwards. I think what they're not expecting is a crash isn't going to be asset prices crashing, because we have debt at levels with interest payments at levels that they need to run the market hot. I think what's going to crash is the value of fiat currencies. And we're going to see this sort of, whether it be a crack up boom or just a persistent melt up in asset prices, because it's capturing, smart money is capturing that into investments. And now we have X and social media and
Mm-hmm.
awareness around the issues with money printing, the realistic feeling of what money printing does, because we saw the change in grocery prices over the course of 3 years versus over the course of 15, where people don't even attribute those things. So I do think we're going to see I think people are still waiting. Mark Moss points it out perfectly. People are waiting for that 2008 style market correction. And then there's a lot of money on the sideline. What is it, like $7 to $9 trillion in money market funds right now? Those are people waiting for the market to have this big correction so they can get in. And the market just keeps melting higher and higher. Eventually, that money is also going to rotate in, only contributing to more sustained buying power into these investment asset classes.
Right. And the conversation it's kind of all swirling around this end of year, expected rate cuts from the Federal Reserve. TJ has put it out there. Crypto might just gig ascend when the Fed goes on full Q&E, expanding their balance sheet and doing rate cuts. Powell had a pretty dovish speech yesterday. It doesn't sound like that's much room or ground for the Federal Reserve to stand upon, saying that the economy is strong and resilient at this point. Pat's kind of out of the bag about the job losses, about the general economy essentially coming to a lock, and especially the single family real estate market. It's a $120 trillion market here in the United States. So letting that fall apart, probably not an option. Not to mention, Kelly mentioned, he brought up the interest on the debt and the fact that they have to refinance a good amount of debt over the next 6 months here. So there is just macroeconomic reasoning for this pullback. What it does for alts, I don't think this is the only massive catalyst that alts can get or Bitcoin can get for upside. Really, I think that this is a shitstorm that's, playing out in gold right now, as you see. And I do think that this shit flows downhill, and it's going to flow onto our faces in crypto, and it's going to be great. And we're going to love it, right? It's going to be huge. Just have to be patient enough to get there. Where the top is to gold is something that I was asked this morning is what hits $5,000 first?
Oh, this is a great audience. Get ready for this one.
Yeah.
We want your participation here.
Ethereum hitting $5,000 proper a piece, a unit, sack nasty, or gold hitting $5,000 a piece, right? Gold is well on its way, and it's nearly, I think, $28 trillion market cap, a massive, massive market cap, but it's nearly doubled in a very, very short amount of time. Let's see what you think down in the chat. Let's get all the answers here. We got gold. Oh, we got an ETH bull. Your owner. Tim thinks gold, Kryptonite thinks ETH, Robin gold. He switched his chat.
Well, dude.
Oh Lord.
Even right now, the gold pricing. I mean, look at this. It had a massive bull flag here, and it's almost. When I saw this, I was like, oh, I don't know if this is. Yeah, look, it's almost all the way up to the top of this target already, and that target is about 4,500.
Right. It's been absolutely cooking. And you know what? Like, I've gone over the gold chart in the macro, Kelly, that I think is actually playing out right now. It's a lot of people argue that we're going to have a collapse down, and I've been saying it's a collapse up for I can't remember how long. It feels like a collapse up. Hey, that's the Dixie falling apart. Let's look at this. Pain. This is the pain I want to see here.
Well, the Dixie falling apart, but feels like everything in this market is a but. What the fuck, right? And that's this little dotted line right here. If we see what this little happy bush does, if we come all the way back here, we got a little happy bush that comes look at that, all the way back to 2011, arguably back to 2008. So we have a decades-long trend line that the strength of the dollar is bouncing on. But Kelly, we want to look at our altcoins. We want to look at Bitcoin. Why are we looking at the dollar? Because when this is dropping, this is good for risk assets. If this finds supports and reverses and comes back up, the upward moves is basically people going risk off. They're going back into the dollar. So if this does find support here and, push, continue pushing up, it's not going to be good. However, I do think it would be overwhelmingly bullish. If this does break down and lose this decade-long trend line, this would be the insane, overwhelming pumpedness that, like, make sure you're wearing the proper boots.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's some crazy stuff to be looking at here. Look at this. This is the gold mapped out all the way back to 1970s, this crash out moment that I've highlighted that this shelf, I was saying that we were literally just going to go parabolic and it won't make any sense on gold because of the macroeconomic environment being similar. We're cutting interest rates into inflation. We have political pressures on the Federal Reserve. We have cooking the books to the moon happening. And all while we were at this stumble point, I circled on gold. And I believe that was about $3,300. Now, the stumble point has occurred and we've just been cooking to the upside. The interesting thing about this is that we did not have Bitcoin as an available option back here. Gold is doing that rinsing and repeating, and it's had thousands of years to prove itself as a store of value. Bitcoin has had 16, 17, maybe 18 years to do so. Much smaller time frame to capture kind of the safe haven conversation. But we do have the likes of BlackRock and major asset managers telling their portfolios that, 4% in Bitcoin kind of makes sense. Hasn't happened yet, but they're starting that conversation. We are much earlier than we think we are. I've said it many times. I feel like we are much, much earlier in crypto than we actually think we are. And, it makes me feel good. It makes me walk with a light heart and a pep to my step. I'm also, getting ready for an HOA meeting coming up here. Ready for the HOA meeting, the meet and greet, Kelly. Here's the name tag. I'm getting ready for it. I just had to do it. Okay. No, I don't have an HOA, but, this is so interesting, this next piece of information, Kelly. This is nuts. So Coinbase actually listed the BNB token. Right before we went live, Coinbase is getting ready to list this BNB token. A lot of the base builders saying, oh, we got Binance going low, we're going high. But I actually think it's Coinbase just opening up Binance to be able to receive it and then see people flow out of it. They're looking at the outflows from Binance and they're trying to capture some of that audience.
Oh, Coinbase. It's like, okay, you got BNB, you can just literally open it. You can move it over here and sell it over here or even custody it. But absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, all exchanges should host all reasonable assets. I think there's a lot of drama going on right now behind the scenes with Coinbase, with Gemini, with OKX, with a lot of them, Binance, that they'll list the trashiest, stupidest, dumb nonsense meme coin that has somebody with money behind it that pays for the listing only to have it rug. And then you have decent like Constellation DAG is a great example. Constellation DAG is not only a reasonable project, they got an incredible team and they're tied in with things that are going on with the digital chamber, doing things in DC. They have government contracts, and yet they've had an application in with Coinbase for 3 or 4 years, and they've already passed due diligence, but Coinbase will not list Constellation DAG. Then you look at Dog on Bitcoin, the meme coin there. Well, incredible community. No, they're not paying for any listings. So there's a huge issue that they're having getting listed. Whereas, 3 days later, there'll be the trashiest meme coin ever that pays to get listed, pumps and dumps. And then the PR representatives for these exchanges are like, yeah, we're all about community. We want to list good projects. And yet they do not do that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like Coinbase represents American crypto interest. Binance represents Chinese crypto interest. I think it is as simple as that. There's, and we have CZ and whoever Chen or whoever the hell's the actual CEO. They're like, oh no, we got offices in Canada and Snow, Mexico, and we're very decentralized and stuff like that. I don't believe it. I just don't believe it. You can say things as a powerful person to me, and I can still think that you are full of. Okay, I have that right. So now we got this. Oh, why is that? Keep swapping you over there. All right, let's go here. So ABSA South Africa, one of Africa's leading financial institutions, now is Ripple's first major custody partner in Africa. This is huge for Pat McCrotch. This is huge for all the XRP bulls out there. We're bringing institutional digital asset custody to South Africa, providing the secure and compliant infrastructure needed to meet rising institutional demand. Kelly, this reminds me of Cardano last cycle.
Oh, you're talking about the Africa infrastructure play? That cool. It might show some meaningful growth and distribution and development in 15 years. But let's be honest, especially with the advent of Pump Fund and other token deployers, the attention span within crypto has been minimized to a fraction of a day. People are looking for an entire market cycle. And then once it crashes or rugs, they say, is this going to go to $10? I'm like, there's 30 trillion coins. What are you talking about?
Well, and the thing about it is that XR or Ripple is basically like email for banks at this point. It's like a fancy communication system. Value is going to go from one spot to the next. XRP is being left out of this.
And it's not even Gmail. It's Hotmail. It's outdated.
Basically. So, when we look at price action for XRP, this does not tell me, $10 is possible. In general,
well, hold on a second. On that note, let me find it really quick. There's a post I did yesterday, and I shared it. I believe I shared it on stream. It's this one right here. Let's go ahead and pull that up. I asked people where they thought we were on the Bitcoin cycle, but Kelly, we're talking about Ripple, right? Well, this is exactly my point. I'm talking about Bitcoin here. And then we got this genius here, Steven Smolinski. Bitcoin is going to zero. You're welcome, X. Well, then let's dive in a bit deeper. You're going to get wiped out by Bitcoin. It's the Trojan horse. It's XRP. It always was XRP. It always will be XRP. XRP is the chosen one. Okay, it goes further, but wait, there's more. And then we go to today, and he actually says another Bitcoin bro falling for, it's right here. Let me go back one step right here. He says, where's my replies? One second. Right here. He says, Warren Buffett sold $813 million in bank shares 7 to 8 years ago and invested it into Ripple. Okay, tell me you're smarter than Warren Buffett. So I said, okay, let's just throw it into something that pulls all information from everywhere, AI. And it says, boom, no, Warren Buffett has not invested in Ripple, the company, or its associated cryptocurrency. Berkshire Hathaway's stake in banks like Bank of America and Wells Fargo, which have explored blockchain technology, including Ripple's distributed ledger for payouts, but he is not. And in fact, Warren Buffett also invested in Neobank or Nubank, whatever that was, but has since divested from that. So, I mean, any suggestion of direct investment is unsubstantiated speculation or misinformation from crypto enthusiasts hoping to leverage Buffett's reputation. So there it is, guys. And I'm not hating on XRP. I'm hating on any coin out there that has a community that is fervently arguing facts that have been disproven. It is going to ruin how you're holding, what you're navigating if you're believing the wrong information.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's like when I talk about all this stuff happening with Swift, I have to be really, really careful because there is so much disinformation out there. Is there a Trump speech today? When is the Trump speech? Let me know in the chat. 90% Ethereum. I need to back up on something that we talked about this very, very early in the show. We're titled around this. We came very, very close to, here, I'll pull this up. So we came very, very close to Aave having a systemic internal meltdown from this attack on Athena. And if we had seen Aave effectively attacked, the pullback wouldn't be a pullback. It would be a absolute catastrophe. So, again, I do think we're very, very early. Yes, crypto, other than Bitcoin and Chainlink and Ethereum, are highly, highly speculative. I think that price action looks speculative for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Chainlink, but systemically, those are pieces of infrastructure I think are sound. Aave nearly got a good chunk of its body chopped off a few days ago. So, yes, we're here. the bags are fine. And, generally speaking, altcoins are coming back. But just keep that in mind, folks. You are in the Thunderdome fighting for your life to outpace inflation within the altcoin sector. I've done it before. Think I'm going to do it again. And I'm even with the lackluster price in Chainlink, I'm well outdoing it, inflation. But I acknowledge the risk I'm taking on. The risk that I see, the true risk, is not taking any moves in this market, seeing that there's essentially a guarantee of inflationary / hyperinflationary event here in the United States. If they do go and print $10 to $20 trillion to build all their little data centers and power infrastructure, that's going to cause our dollar to cascade down the chart in terms of buying power. So I'm fighting for my life, for my family's life here on the blockchain, and you're just here to witness it happen publicly. Now,
yeah, we did get word. It is the president participating in a press conference with Kash Patel, director of federal FBI, at 3:00, which is, I don't think, something that we'll need to cover because it's going to be he is kind of like the older guy in your life that repeats every story on every single time he talks, but they're just trying to get that message across. But I did want to highlight something else to the point that you just brought up there, Drew. Yeah. And that is this chart right here, because we're talking about the bullishness that's coming in, but we're also talking about the softness and the sort of lack of conviction of momentum that we're seeing in the market right now. And this is an interesting chart. A lot of colors, squiggly line. Cool. What does it mean? Well, whales, not just us retail, whales just got whacked on October 10th as well. Remember, tens of billions of dollars got wiped out. After a Binance and futures fiasco, average order size plunged 66%. So the sizing of even the big players has been reduced by 2/3 since October 10th. Big players wiped out, retail is left holding the wheel. This is what the battlefield looks like before the next move. Now, well, the question is going to be, is this going to be the doom and gloom where we're actually going to not only get a breakdown, but a potential continuation after a breakdown, aka top of cycles in? Or is this going to be a ripe opportunity to take advantage of the market, because we're seeing, so like right now we're going to the second half of October. Second half of October, when it's supposed to be October, is actually when the Octoberness is supposed to happen. So we're going to know in the next 3 weeks. It's my contention in the next 3 weeks, if we're not getting a sort of move above some key zones, then we're likely in for a very long period, meaning a few months of sideways price action or potentially breakdown into Q1.
Oof. That's an ugly scenario there, Kelly.
But we got the Fed rate cuts coming at the end of the month. We got the hope so there's hope there. And there's increase in buying pressure from corporations, institutions.
But the ETF, Kelly,
right?
The
I'm
ETF,
just saying we got to be, I fall victim of it myself. You do it as well, Drew. We try not to, but I'll see something super bullish and I post it. But that does not disregard the bearish considerations. I talk about and I show the bearish considerations, but that does not overweigh what we're seeing. You got to be very nimble and adaptable right now. And I really highly advise that you're not putting a substantial portion of your portfolio on leverage. In fact, that's one of the reasons why we started using breakout prop, because you could have large position sizing with a very, a 1% exposure to the size of a position that you could get. So you're not risking a lot.
Absolutely. It's a good way if you're having the FOMO about trading, it builds preset guardrails around you, so you don't go in there and blow up your whole account. Pass that hopium over here, bro. I got some hopium, some stuff I got to cover here before I got to hop off here. What is this? Ethereum Foundation deposited 2,400 Ethereum into, what do you think? Morpho. What up? All right, so we got a large amount of money being locked up in Morpho from the powers that be at the ETH Foundation. AWS Cloud, tiny company, is sponsoring Chainlink SmartCon coming up. Good look there. Also, Meteora has unveiled details on the MET token launch. Meteora is kind of a sneaky little onboarding ramp for retail into crypto. It looks like a total of 48% of the supply is going to be distributed at this token generation event, including 10% through liquidity distributor. So I'm going to be watching that. I'm going to see how, if I had to be a betting man, it's probably going to dump. In these market conditions. Not in these market conditions, buddy. Also some rollouts happening on the arena. Jason DeSimone, I've had him on and had a couple good conversations with the guys. Very cool. They're getting ready to build up towards social trading, and they're actually getting ready to roll out their own web app. I'm very much so looking forward to that. And speaking of web apps, we were inches from seeing the European Union basically shut down all free speech across the European Union all at once. Thankfully, Germany stepped in. This is right up from Pavel. I'll give this a retweet just so you guys can read it. But you know what? We are on the edge of disaster. Let's see here. Chainlink is the gym bro crypto, always working out but never showing gains. God, that is so real. That is so real, bro. And I can fudge my own bags. It's healthy to fudge your own bag. You know, it's the same thing with DAG. You mentioned DAG. It's like these projects have a lot of connections, and just the price action isn't seeming to play out. Very aggravating situation. I'm heavily overexposed. If I die, I die. What say you on that thought?
I mean, it's my largest position, Chainlink, and I have it with a bit of conviction where I'm not particularly worried about it. I think the biggest issue we're going to see on Chainlink is maybe you need to be patient a little bit longer than you expected to be, but it is tying together the entire infrastructure layer of what everything is moving towards, including the interoperability between chains, cross-chain interoperability protocol, creating that standard. It's also, on the floors of legislative chambers on a regular basis in DC, working with Davos and CBOS and DTCC and SWIFT and 24 of the largest institutional financials businesses that are out there. So I think it's just a patience game right now while the world is shaking about through 25 million different coins, what's going to land. And this one already has the foundation and the infrastructure getting integrated. So I think the worst pain you're going to feel in Chainlink, in my opinion, is how patient can you be? Because I do think it's going to run when everybody gives up on it.
Well, you know what? Drop the ticker of the coin that you're wondering what the hell is going on with this project down in the chat. Kelly's going to go through a couple charts I know he wants to look at, but make sure to drop the ticker down in the chat so that Kelly can see it and get an eye on what projects people are the most worried about, or if you want to check out different signals that are going on, because I know that there's a lot of old alts that are sitting in bags that haven't been moving or pooping, and people are wondering. I'll hand it to you, Kelly. You can kind of dig into the altcoin sector here and give them the alpha.
Yeah, I'm putting some stars here so I can look at about 5 or 6 of those. Shout out to Drew, always bringing the heat. Love doing these joint shows with that we're doing together, and then also be kicking off our blockchain basement and BitLab streams again. I believe next week, getting those really going. But yeah, let's dive into some charts, guys. Let's dive into some charts. So I got to vaunt this up because somebody asked in the chart earlier, is AVNT a good buy? I think the question is, what's your time horizon? How much patience do you have? And are you willing to endure another drop if it happens? Or are you trading it? Are you looking for a position or a trade? You always need to ask yourself that. In terms of, is it a good buy right now? What I see immediately when I look at this chart up here, before the market bottom fell out of everything, this was looking like it was potentially setting up to be a good buy. However, now what we're seeing is a bearish stair-step pattern, kind of like this, right? And this tells me that it's likely wants to take one more swing lower, whether it's all the way down to about this level here, which is this previous hiccup zone in price action, or just a bit of a fake out and then up. I don't know. I think the market is kind of going through some growing pains right now, and that's evident in the sentiment in the market. In fact, we can come over here and look at that. If we come over here, let's check off long. Let's go to favorites. Let's go to fear and greed index. And we talked about this the other day. We finally achieved that kind of sub 30 mark here, which is tends to be good buying opportunities. But again, remember back here in the 7-month sideways price action, we had, about 3 months of this getting down sub 30 and then pumping, and then down sub 30 and then pumping, down sub 30 and then really launching. So we may get a scenario like that. I don't expect we get one dot under 30 and then this moon rockets from here. I think we have to recapture some of the confidence in the market, which was evident in this chart right here. Even the whales, everybody's like, okay, let me take a little bit of a breather in the market right now. Let's find some footing. So when I look at something that's a lot smaller market cap, and I'm not saying this can't pump from here, but when you look at the context of the market, smaller market cap, the perp dex is also, a lot of people got wiped out, massive liquidations on Hyperliquid, on these different perp dexes. So I do think that it's a little bit of a risk off for me. What I watch here, even if you miss some of it, if you are sensitive to price action movement, if I would watch for a move up to this zone here, 79 cents, and watch for a bit of a rejection, finding support on these previous range tops. If that bounce comes in, then about right here would be a great entry, in my opinion. That's what I'm seeing on that. And I'd also be watching for another opportunity to potentially pick up lower about where this level is down here at about 44, 45 cents. We also see, man, people that have ICP love ICP. And I'm not sure if it's because you just endured the most reckedness shaped chart in the market. What am I talking about? This is ICP. Now, of course, this had a lot to do with loose ties. And I won't say it was because it wasn't ICP's fault per se, but loose ties, what was going on with Sam Bankman-Fried and Alameda and FTX. So it got propped up super high on launch and then has only sold off since. Had a little dead cat bounce here. But if we ignore this because of that sort of misrepresentation and how they were screwing with the price action, if we're just looking at the price action here, yeah, we got this is on a weekly chart. Big wick down, came back up. Great. What's it looking like on the 4 hour? Let's get a bit more data. Get over here. Let's pull up some data. RSI, super oversold. Look at that. Came down here to like 10, 12. Money flow popped back positive. Pretty high move on the money flow too, if you ask me. And this price couldn't even get up to where these previous range lows are. So that looks super weak to me. That looks weak to me. That looks like the most bullish thing I could state right now is if this were to stop right here, we have a higher low, great. But what I actually see this likely doing, because you see the RSI has rolled over, I would likely see this coming down, and the next bullish opportunity would be to create basically a double bottom, W formation right here. And if this doesn't hold, then I do think we're going to be exploring a bit more to the downside. Going through Aether. Man, we haven't looked at Aether for a while. That's Texas finest. I'll pull these up just so you guys know I'm not just doing coins I want. I want to do what you guys are talking about here so we can look at things. ATH. All right, Aether, another good project, basically decentralized compute, kind of like, it's not like, similar in some ways, adjacent to Render, a bit different with how they're doing it, but I do like the project. I even held some at some point. But as it stands right now, this just looks like it's just ranging pump, dump. Now, as it stands right now, if you put right where the price action is, put a horizontal line across, look at where that's sitting at right now. It did suck back up, come back down, but currently it's sitting on a bit of a support, previous range high, previous rejection here, a small bit of a bounce right here. Regional rejections there. If this is able to hold in this territory, then that's starting to get some good structure. But I mean, look at this, down, stair step, down, stair step, down. Now the momentum is shrinking. So I think what we're going to want to see on this, if you're expecting upside, is something in here where it's still going to chop like this, but creating some sort of rounding structure that then can break out, find support, and have continuation to the upside. As it stands right now, this is looking weak. We do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's a possibility on an Elliott wave thesis that finding support right here and having the 5 wave, that this could be finding that support. But this is, again, this is, I think, is going to be victim to what the narrative in capital flow in the broader crypto market is. If things are going risk off, then this also will go risk off harder and fall substantially. So it's a bit caution there. Mr. Helper says ENA. Let's look at ENA. Athena. All right. Same thing. Wick down, came back up. This couldn't even get back up to this high. We're seeing weakness in the alts right now. We really are. If this were to break down, I'd be looking for this territory right here, and I'm looking at this price action over here. I'm not even looking on the right. And notice that's exactly where the sort of candle bodies, once it sucked back up and fell. This is where it found support. So if this comes down and finds support here or higher, then you're starting to form a potential bullish formation to make a move up. But as it stands right now, this looks like it wants to at least test this, if not move a bit lower. Money flows up, but it's rounded out. And look, RSI rejected well below the strength territory. So weakness is in control is what I'm seeing there. Link, Aster. Let's look at Link and Aster. Link. So Link, we had the falling channel. They're supposed to break bullish. Remember, I've been telling you guys this for 2-3 years on these channels, BitLab Academy, Discover Crypto. These bullish patterns or bearish patterns, whatever it is, this market has been moving in the opposite direction first, washing people out, trapping people, and then moving out of it in the right way, trapping people because they're excited, and then washing back inside, and then resolving the move, basically getting these double or triple washouts down, okay, back up, boom, and then making a move. So as it stands right now, this should have broken bullish, right? Based on the stats, but all those are probabilities. Because we know that this is more often than not lately in the last year specifically, been taking advantage of people in that regard. This broke bearish, came back up. It's going to go back inside. No, rejected. So this is looking weak. RSI also came back up, rejected sub 50. If the money flow starts coming in or something, so I'm super bullish on Link, mid to long term. In the near term, notice that what happened in the last 3 weeks. They had some of the biggest publications and PR releases about partnerships, about global financial integrations with Chainlink, and I mean, the list is insane. It's like probably 40 different press releases of insane news, and this is breaking down. So does that mean it's over? No, it doesn't. But what it means for me is the news is super bullish. The market's moving against that. It feels to me like they're really just trying to take advantage of people to give up on it. So if this does break down and come down like this, then we got a bit of a pretty large, ugly head and shoulders, which will, we'd be watching to come down and test down into the $11 range if that would happen, $13 to $11. But the barriers of that I would see are this whole zone that we have right here. We do have a bit of a barrier, $16 all the way down to about $14. And remember, this trend line isn't an arbitrary trend line. That trend line is a trend line that goes back to this peak here in 2021. So if this were to come back, and it already did, but if this were to come back down into this zone, I'd like for this to hold here to maintain a late near term, like kind of like a very short midterm sort of bullish possibilities. Now, this market can switch on a dime. So if this price action, because we do have higher lows currently, right? If this were to maintain anywhere in here, if this can get back in this falling channel range, then we can start talking about exploring the upper side, rejection, and then continuation. So it's a lot of patience right now, letting the market makers and the participants and the narrative of the momentum of bulls and bears really start to paint a picture. They also said Aster, and this is from 10 Aiken, the Oak. All right, so let's delete that. It's irrelevant. That's irrelevant. I mean, this looks ugly as it can be. This looks super, super ugly. What do we got? Fall, bounce, fall. Okay, but really it looks like a giant bear flag. If this were a giant bear flag, which is just super ugly, then the target on this would be all the way, look at that, come all the way back down to this level, 72 cents. Could that happen? It's not possible. It's very possible, especially with something that meteorically rose like that. Now, am I saying that's going to happen? No, I'm looking at a possibility of where the chart suggests there's an area to watch. So we're going to watch that area. Look at that. We already had it marked out from previous price action. Now, what I will say with the most recent price action, super ugly. I won't really call this head and shoulders, but it very much looks like one that's just at an angle. It wouldn't surprise me to have this wash out to the downside, test at least minimum into this region before making a move up, if we're going to get a move up in the near future. Excuse me. The most bullish take that I could give right now, because RSI is below 50, money flow is negative. This is on the 1 hour. What's it on the 4 hour? Yeah, look, getting rejected at the 50 line. Money flow sharply to the downside. If for something jolts the market in a bullish fashion, if this can find support here, we want to clear this level right here, about $1.55. We want to get back up into this, reject, find support, and go. But again, it's all about patience right now as the market is finding its footing. and a lot of stuff going on. We see KTA. We haven't looked at KTA for a while, so let's look at K. Where's that? Why didn't that go up there? There we go. Kita. I haven't looked at this in a minute. That's not what I want to look at. KTA. I want to look at, here we go. Bit more price action. I was just, you guys notice what I just did? I want y'all to realize something. When I put this in and I just clicked on one, I think it was Poloniex. It didn't really give me like the data I wanted. So I went to explore another exchange, not because I didn't like that data. I just try to get as much data as possible. It's not the one I want to look at. KTA. Here we go. That's not KTA. Open. I got a bit more data there. Cool. That's 3 days. Let's go to 4 hour. It's just melting to the downside. Holy moly. Below where it even listed over here on Blowfin. But these parabolas end at some point, right? This is getting straight vertical, meaning it's getting straight to the point where the price is going straight up and down very soon. RSI, it's been trying to bounce. It hadn't been able to do it. So what we're looking at is a trend line here on the RSI. Even the next time the price action moves, I would want this, as well as the 50 line that we're seeing here, right about right here. I'd want to see the RSI break out of this downtrend resistance. I want to see the money flow positive. As it stands right now, I mean, it just looks weak. I mean, I wouldn't be touching this right now unless you're looking 2-3 months out and you think that there's going to be an alt season. What else we got? Let's do 2 more. Arrow, Sparrowhawk. I see you, boo. Boom. Okay. Ugly, ugly, ugly. Let's go double click here, clear there, clear the indicators, and let's look at it just on the 3-day chart, weekly chart. Rising kind of wedge, rising channel, previous support, support, rejection, support, rejection. Broken down. Look, wash out up. What I talk about, these tend to break down. It faked out to the upside. Now it's moving to the downside. Again, very strong project within the base ecosystem. So what does it look like on the 4 hour? Looks ugly as it can be. So let's come back over here, adjust this trend line a bit longer. So support. Look at that support. See, when you look at it like this, it doesn't look like it was relevant at all at this price action. But what you actually see is that although we had the wick below, candle body. Okay, now we slice back through and we're coming back to find it as support. This is actually looking a little bit more bullish when you understand the context of this shape. So wash out, back in the zone. If we can hold support above this trend line, then I'd like to see this come back up. But what does the data say? Money flow up. RSI butting its head against the 50 line. We want to get the RSI back above this if we're expecting this to have the strength. Remember this purple line, the RSI, this is a measurement of the relative strength index, the strength in that asset within, the market. It's buying pressures and sells and the momentum within. So what we're seeing here is this is on the bottom 50%. Weakness is in control. There's not much strength here. You can't get this moving up if there's no strength to push it up the hill. So we need to see this RSI. We want the money flow to maintain an upward posture, and we want to see the RSI break back above this 50 line here to get that move. And then, of course, we really want, with those two things happening, we want to see this break past this previous range low, previous range high. And we will do one more right here. We got P. Kelly. You got part of my name in your thing. So let's look at Cardano. How many people are still super bullish on Cardano? Some people are, some people hate it. You know what? Let's go like this. Remove 39 drawings. Let's just make it clean. Make it clean. I'm looking left on the chart first. I'm only looking at the left. I'm looking at levels of bounce and rejection. And look at that. Ends up being where this rejected. Now we're going to look at this next level shelf right here. I'm looking on the left side. Oh, look at that. Support. So we got some levels there based on previous price action. This is ugly as it can be right here. Rounding top, right? Super ugly. So if this loses this and comes down a bit more, I'd want this to hold this level right here. There's an intersection between this low and this descending level of resistance that turned into support. So can this target box on Cardano hold as support? If so, you may have found a bottom. However, I would just advise, look at this sideways range with the pump back up, back down. Now we're getting another sideways range. Although it doesn't feel like it, it's very sideways, ranging between $50 and $1. Just cannot find that bullish momentum to get that whiff to the upside. Now, on the other hand, we also have this trend line right here, a bit of a support kind of coming up through here. And look at exactly where this is right now. So if this could maintain this, maybe this was a move and then it goes. But we have negative money flow. We have the RSI angled down from the 50 line. This is the 3-day chart. So what are we looking like on the daily, on the 4-hour? Money flow up, but the RSI is rejecting at 50, the 50 range, right? We want to see the RSI break above this, and we want to see positive money flow for this to have that authority, the strength, the ability to build momentum to break beyond 77 cents, and then potentially make that continued trajectory upward. But everybody, we got to maintain our spirits. We got to maintain our strategy, refine your strategy. Look at what you're okay with enduring. If you're very uncomfortable and you're prone to making really bad decisions and emotional moves, maybe you need to, and I can't tell you what to do, why to do it, whatever, but ask yourself, are you comfortable with those things? And do you need to reposition some stuff? Do you need to move out of positions or trade less of a percentage of your portfolio? These are all questions you should be asking if you haven't already. But guys, I'm very bullish on what's to come. I think this is an epic market shakeout before the real moves come. So we just need to mind our P's and Q's, dot our I's, cross our T's, make sure that we're not losing capital now before those massive moves come. But I'm so frustrated in this market right now, says Christian. Everybody, let's show some support here. If you are in any way frustrated with this market right now, throw a 1 in chat. I should see 4,464 because that's how many people are watching right now. I should see 4,464 ones in the chat because there's some frustration in some regard in everyone. If you're a super bear, you want it just to finally break down. If you're a super bull, you want it to just fly. And we just keep getting these chop patterns, and it's doing what it's meant to do, which is to absolutely frustrate the living heck out of people. So acknowledge that you're frustrated. Ask yourself what your strategy is. Ask what you're going to do about it. And sometimes it's getting out of the charts. I love you all being here. I love you tuned in. I love you getting engaged in the live chat, hitting the like button, subscribing, digging the bell, taking a gander over at our different partners like Arculus, protecting yourself with cold storage. Get Arculus.com. Use code DC20. Making sure that if you have IRAs that you're participating in another brand partner here, Bitcoin IRA. I am doing a spaces tomorrow with the Bitcoin IRA team. They're going to be a part of it, but it's broadly about what's going on in the market, big money, some really capital money flow stuff. You're going to want to pay attention to some alpha. That's going to be on the Discover Crypto X page, but go and check them out. Give them a call, 1-877-936-7175. You can day trade up to 80 different altcoins there and trade that. When you profit, rotate those profits into Bitcoin and do it in a tax sheltered way, regulated, legal, setting up your future. Guys, we need to make sure we're doing everything possible right now to take advantage of anything we can in the market in a meaningful way while also not putting things at risk, because every $5, $10, $100 in smart moves we make now versus $5, $10, $100 in bad moves that we do right now could be $1 million differences in the future. So let's lock it in. I love you all. I appreciate you all. Hope you all have an absolutely phenomenal day. And with that, Louis Rincon, I see your super chat. We hit ADA and Cardano and Arrow. So thank you for the super chat. But I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios, muchachos.